Welcome to another edition of the Pot Stir Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Welcome to the Pot Stir Podcast with Jazzy Jeff, where we ask the questions, follow the facts, and stir up the conversations that matter to our community. Visit jazzyjeffpotstirrer.com or email jazzyjeff@jazzyjeffpotstirrer.com. Now grab a spoon. It's time to stir the pot. Here's Jazzy Jeff.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in. It is City Council meeting time here on the Pot Stirrer Podcast, and we're going to head on over to Seneca City Hall as we get this evening's City Council meeting, a work session, and special called meeting, and we will have all the details on that coming up here for you in just a few moments here at 6 o'clock. We'll come back and give you a wrap tonight. Scheduled to talk tonight on the Pot Stirrer Podcast in the City Council meeting will be the 1 cent or penny sales tax. That's going to be a topic of conversation. Also, tonight, an ordinance that we think is kind of interesting is 2026-19, and this is going to amend the Chapter 6 of the City Code dealing with animals and fowl. Now, the official agenda does not explain the exact changes. It only says the ordinance will receive its first reading, and local reporting has described this as a proposal to consider to end city-provided animal control services. Let's join up now with the Seneca City Council meeting.
We give you thanks for letting us have a good day today. We ask you to bless us at this meeting and give us the wisdom to do thy will. We ask you to protect our first responders and our military personnel all over the nation and all over the world. And we ask you again to give us strength to do thy will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Scott, would you be kind?
Yes, sir.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please. All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Scott, you want to grab the work session and roll that forward?
Yes, sir. Just a couple items on the work session for consideration this evening, and we'll have subsequent readings of both items at the special call meeting following. First item is ordinance 2026-19. This ordinance would amend our code of ordinances, specifically Chapter 6 for animals and fowl. What we have put together for your consideration is an ordinance that would amend that section of the code to incorporate Oconee County's animal control ordinance into it as well. Our ordinance has not been updated since quite some time now, so we also made some adjustments to our ordinance, but we're incorporating the ordinance of Oconee County into our ordinance because the sheriff, in order for his animal control team to be able to enforce animal control laws within our community, we have to adopt the county's regulations. So this ordinance primarily would do that. As we discussed before, the animal control operations will be managed by the sheriff's office inside the city limits. We will not be filling the animal control officer position, which we haven't had to fill for quite some time as it is. So this ordinance will actually incorporate county regulations, so it gives the sheriff's employees the authority and jurisdiction to be able to come inside the city and manage our animal control operations for us. So that's fairly simple there. Hope you had an opportunity to get ahead of time and read it. But again, we made some just minor adjustments to our ordinance as well, just since it hasn't been updated in quite some time. Any questions on that before I move on to the next item? All right, next one is ordinance 2026-20. This is the Municipal Tax Relief Act ordinance. Again, this ordinance does not approve any type of local option sales tax. This ordinance merely establishes the question, the project list, the percentage of the tax rebate back to the 4% of residences of our community, and then orders the election commission to place the question on the ballot. So this, as you remember, In no way can the city actually approve this. It has to be approved by the voters by referendum at a general election, even year in the voting booth. So what this ordinance will do is actually establish the question. We have to also establish the percentage of the sales tax collected that's going to be rebated back to the 4% property owners within the city. We've set that now through additional research and calculations at 55%. That 55% of all the collections will go back to the taxpayers through property tax relief, and that will substantially decrease, or in some cases possibly eliminate, property taxes for the 4% properties owned in the community. Since our last meeting, we were able to speak with the Department of Revenue, get a firm estimate of what we would generate based on current economy and spending, what we would generate in additional revenue. We also were able to speak with the assessor's office and get a true, accurate accounting of our property tax assessment rates. Therefore, we can kind of back into what portion or what percentage we would need in order to cover this cost. We've also built in a little bit of a conservative buffer on the 55%, because you have to make sure you factor in some kind of a growth rate with regards to the collection, as well as a growth rate in regards to property values and growth. What we don't want to do is set the percent too low and not collect enough to honor what we have said we would do with the rebate. So we want to make sure we build a little bit of a buffer. We've done that. It's important to note that buffer is not just free money. We can't just take that additional over collection and spend it on anything we want. Can't even spend it on the project list. We have to actually reserve that, and for 3 years, after the initial 8 years, we use that remaining funds as additional property tax rebate. And then anything that's not used at that point will go to the state as part of their sales tax collection. So, we were able to establish that 55%. We've got a project list that the mayor set up a small council committee. They've met twice now. They've reviewed that list. They've gone over the list. We've looked at the dollar amount, and we've actually established a priority. The committee established a priority of the list, because you have rank your projects in a tier 1 and a tier 2. Tier 1 is what you expect to be able to complete with the monies that you forecast collecting, and then the tier 2 projects are those that are there in case you collect more than what was anticipated. You have to have a reserve set of projects, if you will, in order to accomplish those with their additional funds. But again, we got that list. I know that Ryan updated his staff memo regarding the act and additional information that we have. I believe he's emailed that to you. Hope you've had a chance to review that as well before tonight. Again, I think we have researched this and done enough evaluation to talk with the right departments. We have accurate enough information that we're presenting it to you tonight for first reading consideration. Again, the ordinance does not approve the tax; it just merely approves the question and the submission for the election commission to put it on the ballot. Again, first reading tonight. I've had a couple of people ask. It was just signed into law in May. We started studying and learning about it throughout May and June, and we realized we had got to have the question to the state elections office for approval prior to August 19th in order to meet the deadline to put it on the ballot for November. If we had not met that deadline, or we do not meet that deadline, we have to wait until the general election in 2028 before we get to the ballot. And it's important to note that collections will not start until May following the date of which the public approves, or doesn't approve, but approves the referendum question. So it was important enough to not have to wait 2 years. That way we can start rebating those taxes immediately in the next year versus waiting 2 to 3 more years to do that. Again, there's a lot of detailed information in the staff report. Ryan, I don't know if there's anything in general that we need to present this evening.
Beyond that, the only other thing I mentioned is it can't be used to offset our operations, so it can't subsidize the general fund. It has to go directly towards capital projects.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from the council?
Yeah, just for my mind. you put the buffer in, and how did you figure out the growth rate of the buffer? I assume that's what you did.
Yeah, so the state actually assigns an annual expected growth rate in the sales tax collection. We actually set ours a little lower than that just to make sure. I think we set it at 3% and versus 4 on the revenues versus 4 on the revenue side. Make sure I got those numbers correctly. And then on the property tax side, we set it at 55%, and there is roughly so, as an example, over the 8-year period, we would collect a little over $2 million worth of buffer amounts. If everything was exactly like we forecasted, which trying to forecast out sales tax spending over an 8-year period is not going to be easy, right? Trying to forecast out exactly what your property tax assessment value is going to be every year for the next 8 years is going to be difficult. Are we going to bring on 100 new homes? Or are we going to get a reassessment rate that's 5%, 3%, you don't know those factors, right? So we built in enough for over an 8-year period, it's a little over $2 million worth of buffer, is that correct? If I remember those numbers correctly. So what will happen is after that 8-year period, those $2 million for 3 more years will be given to the property tax payers as additional rebate even beyond the 8-year period.
Well, what percentage of growth did you use?
We're
3%.
3%?
On the revenue side.
Oh, we're assuming 125 homes are added every single year with a valuation of $400,000, which we have not hit.
The county is growing at 6.8%.
6.8%.
That's what I was told at ACOG last week.
Population growth at 6.8%.
That's population growth.
That's not residential dwelling growth, that's
But
population.
I'm just wondering.
So that buffer that we factored in is above and beyond the growth rate on the residential side that we're assuming. We're almost doubling the expected total valuation of 4% property.
Okay. So the buffer is solid.
It's pretty solid.
We try to be conservative.
Yeah, and if we don't have those additional houses coming on, that just increases the buffer amount, right, that you have, that you give back to the current ratepayers after the 8-year period.
Right. Well, we just talked about Greenville and Spartanburg are going at 8.6%, and the little rural county, is going at 6.8%.
Yeah. So I give the number, if you would, of the people who would contribute to that do not live here.
Oh, so there's a couple of different numbers you can look at. So the county's tourism office has always indicated about 39% of every dollar spent in the county is spent by somebody who lives outside the county, so roughly 40%. There are also updated numbers in other reports that indicate almost 60% of every dollar spent here. I like to lean more towards the 40%, so you can pretty much determine that 40% of every dollar spent is spent by somebody who does not live in the county. Therefore, you can kind of pro rata translate that for the city of Seneca as well. So 40% of the money spent will be helping to offset our local taxpayer taxes.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
I think it's important to note, if I understand this correctly, Mr. Mulder, that other cities who are trying to take opportunity with this have set their amount at 20% for a property tax abatement, and we're going to 55.
Yeah.
We're trying to really relieve our city residents who are primary resident owners to get their property taxes abated.
That's correct. The act requires a minimum of 20% of the collections go towards property tax rebate. We see this as an opportunity, obviously, to give more back to the community, back to the 4% property owners. Therefore, we're setting ours at 55%. Our goal is to eliminate, but again, there's a lot of factors there. So, our term is substantially reduced and possibly eliminate taxes, city taxes for those 4% property owners. Owner-occupied homes.
Can you touch on, now, if I understand it, there won't be checks mailed out to people, that will be taken care of in one hall?
Correct. So the assessor there's quarterly reports, there's a lot of different reports you'll have to submit. There's an annual report work to show the collections, the transfer to the general fund to offset those property tax revenues that we would give up in order to rebate. So that they would basically get a tax bill that the auditor will establish a line item for a rebate for the local option sales tax based off the information she or he receives from us. And that would show as a credit on the tax bill. They will not be getting a rebate check back. That's a very important thing. Yes.
So at the end of 8 years, does it have to go back up for another referendum?
Yes.
Or, and a different list of projects if we have somehow finished?
That's correct. You would pretty much start the whole process over again in 8 years. You have a whole other list of projects, some of which we may not have been able to complete. They could go back on there, or you could have a whole other brand new list of projects, and it would have to be voted back in by the taxpayers again, or by the voters again after 8 years. But again, the surplus that we would, that cushion that we would build would not have to be approved. That would be automatically, by this act and this ordinance would require us to get that additional rebate for those 3 additional years, even if they didn't renew the 8 years.
All right, anything else? I want to thank WC, Denise, and Dan. They put a lot of work in about 2 weeks. So thank you guys for altering your time to come in the morning for us to sit down and go over all this. You did a really good job, proud of you. So now we'll put it out to people, and the people always have the final voice. So we'll let them do that. All right, Scott, you got one more thing, it looks like.
No, just an announcement that we have the public hearing and the final reading on August 11th for the Seneca City water budget for this year. So that's just a reminder.
On Mr. William Benson passed away. It was Keisha's uncle. Let's remember her and the Benson family in your prayers. It's been pretty hard on her. Talked with her several times, and that's why she's not here today. I just told her to try to get some rest, because it's tough on you when a loved one passes away. But let's remember the Benson family. Bo, what do you have as far as people signing up to speak under the rules that we have?
We moved into the sales call meeting. We have 3 individuals who signed up to speak on agenda items this evening.
Okay.
First, we have Ray Murphy.
All right. Come up, state your name and your address and all those fine things, Mr. Murphy.
There's 5 minutes time for that.
5 minutes.
Can you do it in 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Mr. Mulder. My name is Ray Murphy. I live at 3205 Tumblestone Drive in beautiful Cross Creek in the city. I'm also a commercial property owner here in the city and involved in a few businesses. I'm up here just to speak about the property tax, or the sales tax, I'm sorry, the sales tax. And I did hear one thing that gives me just a little bit of concern, but I'll go into that after. I am totally for this tax. There's no question in my mind. Because I look at the total number that's going to be collected over a lot of people versus that money's going to have to be made up somewhere, somehow. We're going to make that money up over the few, the top 20 taxpayers, which I happen to be one of them, that's been paying all along. The top 20 pay 80% of the taxes. Those are facts. Okay, and that just can't continue to happen. The one concern I have about the collection, and I'm very thankful that 55% is all awesome, but I heard one number that has a little bit concerned me, and that's for the 4% property owners. What about all the people that are actually collecting this money? What about the commercial property?
Yeah, the act doesn't reference the commercial. It's only established for 4%. So that was actually established by the state law that was signed in by the governor.
Understood. Just want to be clear on that. So again, the burden is upon the businesses to collect it. Now, again, it's a pass-through. I'm not spending any money. It's not going to cost me $1. In my type of business, now there are some businesses that this may have effect on. It won't on mine. It's a pass-through. It's a sales tax. But again, we have the burden of collecting it, but we're not going to get, I think we'll get benefit in the long run. There's other things involved there. It doesn't matter, I'm still 100% for it. Right. Whether we're for it or not for it here in this place, Council, I urge you to at least let the voters make the decision.
Oh, yeah, they have to. They have to. We do not pass that.
That is my main concern.
100%.
Because we have a lot of other stuff. If this was going on the last few years, this whole budget thing that we're all talking about, we probably wouldn't be having some of the discussions we're getting ready to have. Again, as a business owner, commercial property owner, we're fixing to have to pay a whole lot of bills that we don't feel is fair to us, but that's just the way it is. The budget is what the budget is, and it has to be, we have to put the money in there. It has to come from somewhere. I would just rather see this collect from a whole lot of people, anybody that's purchasing, and we're one of those funny states. I was in the car business a long time. We have cap, Mayor, we have cap on taxes. So a lot of people say, well, that's a whole lot of tax on a $100,000 car. No, it's not. It's capped off.
That's people in Georgia.
Yeah. Again, I urge you to we got to get the information out that's correct.
Absolutely.
What it's for. The 55 number is a fantastic number. I think that's going to make a lot of difference to some people, and I hope it actually works. I can't see where it can. So that's where I stand. I'm for it 100%. And again, I respect everybody that's going to come up here, and I respect their opinion. And whatever it is, we'll just have to do it.
Transparency is a big thing, right? The meetings we've had, we did not have to invite the press, but we did. We invited the Journal, both radio stations, so they were there because we wanted to be 100% transparent. Thank you.
And the procedure is, we can only offer this. The voters must approve or disapprove.
Right.
We just going through the process so they can get a chance to do it.
Thanks,
well, again, we all get educated, and again, that 55 number I think is a very positive thing for, and I'm a homeowner here too, so, anything helps.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Bo, who else, Jen?
Next up, we have Alex Butterball.
Alex.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Ronnie, Mr. Mulder, and the entire City Council. Sorry, I normally just...
Yes. Your name, your address.
My name is Alex Butterball. I own and operate Kiwi Brewing Company at 401 East Main Street here in Seneca, and I live at 207 East Martin Shore in Seneca. Sorry for reading. I normally just speak from my experience, but I needed to write a couple things down. First, I'd like to start off by saying that I've been one of the most outspoken people in the past about how business-friendly the city of Seneca has been to new and existing businesses. When we decided to open our business in town 8.5 years ago, we were met with open arms and a mindset from council at the time of what can we do to help you. Throughout the years, that relationship has continued, and I've spoken with many prospective business owners and have sung the praises of city leadership and the ease of doing business in Seneca. These conversations have helped guide decisions from many individuals and have led to significant financial investment from these individuals. Tonight, however, I come to council with a very real concern for businesses inside city limits. Tonight, in the work session, there was discussion about 1% sales tax inside city limits. The way it has been delivered to residents in the articles that I read through the Journal is that it would be a 1% special sales tax that would apply to any business inside city limits, which at least 20%, now we know 55%, of the collected revenue would use to offset property taxes for residents inside the city limits. That sounds wonderful for residents inside city limits, if that's truly where the money is to be spent. But who remembers when South Carolina raised the state tax from 5% to 6% on June 1st, 2007? That piece of legislation was known as the Property Tax Relief Legislation, or Act 388. I'm not sure about you, but since I've been paying property taxes, I've yet to see mine decrease. I have little faith that the increase in taxes will have, this increase will have a different outcome, especially with the other conversations that have been going on around the city's budget for this year. Not only do I ultimately think it will be another tax on residents and visitors to the area that does not lower any taxes meaningfully, I also believe that it would have a very real and negative impact on businesses inside city limits. While 1% does not sound like a huge number, it is a real enough number that consumers will make purchasing decisions with it in mind. We see it happen all the time when people drive down the street and save 2 cents on a gallon of gas for their car. Maybe they put in 15, 20 gallons while they're filling up, so their savings are 30, 40 cents for the entire transaction. This kind of thing will no doubt happen when consumers make decisions of where to purchase gas, their next order of t-shirts, where to dine with their families, which liquor store to go to, which hardware store to purchase tools from, which auto parts store to purchase parts from, and so on. If customers can just drive down the road and get the same thing for less because of their location, it puts the businesses inside city limits at a real disadvantage. Not only do most of these businesses already have to charge customers a 2% hat tax inside city limits, but now an additional 1%. That means that any family that goes out to eat inside city limits and pays $75 for a meal will be charged $2.25 extra just because of the location of that business. That happens each and every time they decide to be a patron at any business inside the city limits. If customers will drive down the road to save 30 to 40 cents on filling up their vehicle, do you not think they'll start making similar decisions when considering where to shop, eat out, watch a football game, buy supplies for their car, for their house, socialize? And again, it would be a little bit of a different conversation if this was the only increase being discussed for businesses inside the city limits. Unfortunately, this is not the only one that is increasing this year. Business license fees are going up 45 to 65% for businesses. Electric rates have already gone up 4.5%, with talks of another 4.5% for a total of 9% for the calendar year. Water services is expected to increase 8%. Sewer services is expected to increase 10%. All these add up to a combined 23% increase in utilities for businesses inside city limits. While I'm not trying to overlook the fact that these increases will also affect the residents in the city limits for the utilities, I'm pointing out the fact that any other business outside of the city limits won't be hit with all these utility increases. And now, on top of that, another 1%. Obviously, we don't have to pay it, but consumers will make a decision off of that. So it's been said that the additional 1% sales tax will produce an extra $4 million in sales revenue for the city. The increase in business license is expected to be $400,000, and the utility rate increases are expected to bring in at least $1 million in revenue. The Journal reported that even with these increases, it's not enough to offset the shortfall in the budget, and more money will need to be taken from reserves to cover the budget. How can we be so overspent in our budget that adding $5.4 million doesn't even balance the budget? These increases, if these increases are approved, then it will only allow this type of unbalanced budget to continue each year in the future. Maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board on the budget and be fiscally responsible candidates that many of you say you are and campaign on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
And I do understand after the comments that this increase doesn't go to the doesn't go to the general fund, so I know you can't use that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was going to just point out. You had said $5.4 million was going to the budget to support the operations. That's not technically correct.
Right.
And the $4 million has to go towards the capital projects that go with the referendum. They cannot be used to just supplement the budget. So that 5.4 going all over the budget.
Right. That's right. Thank you. All right. Well, you see, you have one more person like to speak.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Lastly, we have Tim Bowden.
Mr. Bolton, thank you. I have been satisfied with what I've heard thus far, so I will relinquish my time. I appreciate that acknowledgement. Just one question. Do we have copies of the ordinance here tonight? Did I miss them?
We do, and I'd be glad to provide you one.
Okay. I didn't see any outside. I just didn't have one.
I'd be glad to use one.
Mr. Mayor, that's everyone who's signed to speak.
Okay. All right. You're going to get Tim what he wants. Thank you, Scott. All right, guys, we're going to move right along. There's a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2026-19, an ordinance to amend Chapter 6, Animal and Fowl of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Seneca. That's Exhibit A. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Action and a second. Any discussion? Being none, all those signify by raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Okay, motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2026-20, an ordinance to authorize a referendum on November the 3rd, 2026 per SC Code of Law, Section 5-41-110, Multiple Tax Relief Act, Exhibit B. Do I have a motion? Second. We have a motion, have a second. We do. Okay, any discussion? Being none, all those signify by raise your right hand. Thank you all. That's unanimous, Kathy. Okay, Scott, do you have any city updates? No, does not. Mr. Bowman, do you have anything?
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor.
Look at you. All right, thank you everyone for being here tonight. We stand adjourned.
Okay. Where do we start? First of all, the first reading to put this on a referendum passed. Okay, this is referendum, so it'll definitely be up to the Seneca residents to vote. We heard from Ray Murphy, who owns several businesses. He used to own TNR Graphics, Casual Carolina, and he brought up a couple of good points. And then we heard from Alex, who is the owner of Kiwi Brewing, and both of those are 1 for, 1 against. And Alex brings up a lot of great points. There is people that will drive not to have to pay $2 extra. So if your bill's $75, he was saying, would have to pay $2 extra. We are being slammed with taxes. We already went up 2.3% in just the regular mills. Now you're saying that this will be used, 55% will be used to property tax relief, but you can't use it for the general fund. You can only use it for the projects. So we approve this 1%, and we look at all of this, and I just want y'all to. What do y'all think? What do you think? I got Pat checks in, says, "Well, how are people going to pay all these increases, or do they care?" Well, you make a good point there. All will be passed on to the city residents. Yes. And Monkey Monster checked in. Oh, no, we were not invited. Of course, we wouldn't be invited. I was never invited to, wants to be transparent. Well, again, you got the king to thank for that. So let me be direct. Handing out the central tax document like this at a meeting does not give citizens much time to read it, to study it, to calculate its effects, or prepare questions before this reading. And you, again, cannot properly inspect the ingredients when the pot is already on the stove and the council's reaching for the spoon. Well, it's not really the council. Does this automatically mean anything is in proper happening here? No. Transparency, is it transparent? Well, just because you invite the local newspaper, the 2 radio stations, I don't think that's transparent. You got to take it to the people. Because, again, the good news is you residents have the opportunity to say yes or no. Okay? That's what I'm saying. And it's all fine and well, the talk of all of this, but at the end of the day, we know how these taxes work. They go for other things than they were intended to. So do I think this is a good idea? I don't know. I think there's still a lot of questions and a lot of variables that will be added or be asked. And I'll be interested to see our journal, how the journal takes this. Will they all be in favor of this 1%? So tonight, the sales tax, we know 1%. Again, 8 years, it would have to be revoted again. What are the projects? What are these projects that you're talking about? Again, 55%, they're saying for tax relief for the average Seneca homeowner. What else? It's not about anything being or for. Right now, we want to know what the actual story of what does this all include? Yes or no? Would you support a 1% sales tax or 1 cent sales tax if 55% of the revenue is guaranteed to go towards property tax relief, including relief tied to future growth? Now, the remaining money would fund city projects, but those projects must be clearly ranked before the public votes. There is a tier 1 of essential products, tier 2 important but less urgent projects. Again, no vague wish list here, no adding pet projects after the vote. The public should know exactly what comes first and how much each project cost and how long the taxes will remain in place. Well, we heard the answer tonight, 8 years. And then it would have to be revoted on again. So, what do you think? A yes for 55% property tax relief makes it worthwhile. However, how is that revenue going to be recalculated if it can't be used in the general fund? Or no, it's still another tax and Seneca needs to work within the revenue it's already collects. I'm interested to hear your comments. If you got a comment, you want to share your thought or opinion, you can email me, and let me give you my email address. It's jazzyjeff@jazzyjeffpotstir.com. I'd love to hear your comments. Yes for it or no against it. And tonight we had two businesses represented for public comment tonight, which number one, Ray Murphy, used to be on our two of our graphics, Casual Carolina. He still owns a few businesses in town. And then we heard from Alex from the Kiwi Brewing Company. And I think Alex pretty much told it he was a no. And I think Ray Murphy said yes, that he would be for it with the exception of a few things. And tonight I've got a whole laundry list of things about it. I just know that when government gets involved with sales tax and things like this, we go nuts. But my biggest issue with the whole thing is hearing Scott Mulder say, quote, it can't be used for the general fund. So if you take 55% of the tax relief from it, so that's 55% that would not be able to go for revenue to the budget. Where is that money going to come from? So if you got 55% that goes to property tax relief, I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions, and I still don't think we have a lot of answers here. But again, the first reading puts this on the ballot. So the citizens, you get the say in this, yes or no. And I think if the election or the referendum was held tomorrow, it would fail. I don't think it would pass. And right now, until I get a lot more information, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to answer a whole lot more of the questions. Oh, let's see here. Do I have anything else to tell you? I think that's about it. Of course, in the first reading that we had was they're doing away with animal control, and they haven't had an animal control officer in the city in quite some time. Question that I have on there is the county okay with that? I'll find out. I'll ask that question. I want to thank again the Sheriff Mike Crenshaw joined us last night. A very informative conversation. And we appreciate Sheriff Crenshaw joining us last night on the show. But again, we thought it was very important to be able to bring this to you for tonight so that you could hear it. Now, again, council next August 11th. That's coming up on a Tuesday. And that is going to be the big meeting that everybody needs to attend. Ordinance 2026-18, the Seneca Light and Water Budget for fiscal year 2027, is scheduled for a public hearing and the final reading. And of course, it was not listed for a vote tonight, but Seneca utility customers and everybody needs to be circling August 11th because that's when the public hearing and final decisions are currently scheduled. And again, just remember, when you go, you're limited to 5 minutes, must be a city resident, business owner within the city limits, or a Seneca utility customer. And comments must relate only to items that appear on the agenda. So mark your calendars for the 10th of the 11th of August. All right, I think that's about it. I don't have anything else to share with you tonight. I will share something real quick before we leave. And I was just watching some comments that had just come up through Chairman Matt Durham, Matt Durham, County Council Chairman for Oconee County. And Matt has posted something very interesting concerning the Corinth-Shiloh situation. And this is taken directly from his council page, Oconee County Council. Matt says tonight about 30 minutes ago, he said, it's disturbing to watch a small group of people knowingly perpetrate falsehoods in an attempt to get their way. Public safety is not a game, and it should never be treated like one. Every piece of equipment at the Corinth-Shiloh Fire Station was purchased with county tax dollars or donated by the people of that community. The citizens have already paid for it once, and asking them to pay again is like asking taxpayers to pay twice for the same fire trucks and equipment. He is also going on to say in the post tonight that former volunteer fire department campaigned for the creation of this fire district. They asked their neighbors to support it, and the people did. Now it's time to honor that decision and turn the equipment over to the district they worked to create. The equipment exists for one purpose, protecting the people of the Corinth-Shiloh Fire District. The district is now responsible for providing that protection, and the equipment belongs where the calls are answered. No mediation is needed, and no lawyers are needed as well. Just do the ethical thing, put the public first, place the equipment where it can continue to protecting the people who already paid for it, and move forward. And that is Chairman Durham, Matt Durham, making comments on his Facebook page. And I'm telling you, the comments, they're, well, some of them are, some of them are pretty rough tonight. There you go. Let me see here. Justin checks in here before we get out of here. Everyone in the governor's race ran on doing away with property taxes. If that ever came to fruition, then what happens to that 55% penny tax? Justin, I think you make a great valid point. I thought that was part of the issue, is to get rid of all the property taxes. Again, this is considered a sales tax, okay? That's what they're saying. And it is. It's a sales tax. So when you buy something, you're paying 1 cent or whatever. But then we go back to the situation, well, we don't have pennies, do we? I thought we got rid of the pennies. But anyway, I digress. Apparently, I'm not smart enough to know these things or know what's going on. So there you go. Well, again, we'll continue to follow this story and many others coming up on the Podster podcast here. We appreciate you joining us here on this, is this Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday evening. And goodness gracious, if you're going to be traveling up in the mountains this evening, don't do it, because I just saw a headline, 175 lightning strikes in less than 60 minutes. Oh, no, that's actually in a minute up in North Carolina. There was also a tornado warning earlier up there for Yancey and Madison counties. They're having a rough time. So there you go. That is it for now. I hope everybody has a great evening. Thanks for joining us here on the Podster podcast. The show's available on our website at the JazzyJeffPodster.com. You can share with all your friends on the YouTube channel who doesn't have Facebook, where the show's being seen. You can also see it online at our website at JazzyJeffPodster.com. All right, have a great one, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Our show will air Tuesday, and it will be, I believe, 6 o'clock next Tuesday. I'll get you all the information, and be watching out on the social media and the website. We'll have another edition of the Pot Store. Good night, King. Appreciate you joining us tonight here on the program.
Welcome to another edition of the Pot Stir Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Welcome to the Pot Stir Podcast with Jazzy Jeff, where we ask
from
the
back roads and courthouse steps of small town South Carolina to the late night studio where the mics never sleep. This is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stir Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues,